Okay, welcome everybody. Today is the 22nd of February, 2022. What it do? This is Dr. Terrence Duncan with Mahogany Thoughts, and I'm with my co-host, Queen Carmel Brown,
Hello.
and also my other partner in crime, Miss Devon Moody-Graham. She's really part of the team. She doesn't know it yet and stuff, but yeah, you're part of the team. And Mr. Butler, he's actually at a basketball game, so his daughter's basketball game, so he's not going to be able to join us. But before we go into this very special Black History Month conversation, Queen Carmel, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's it's a pretty slow and easy going Tuesday evening. I can't complain. We're wrapping up Black History Month, so we need to go out with a bang.
Absolutely, absolutely. Miss Devin, how are you doing? Welcome.
I am great. Carmel, I need some of your energy right now because it's been a crazy Tuesday, but a blessed one nonetheless. I'm definitely glad to see everyone's faces and be in this place. So I'm great.
Good. And we both got the memo on the red lipstick, Devin.
I don't have any red lipstick. For our audiences viewing this live stream, YouTube, or actually audio recording, so I just want to clarify, I do not wear red lipstick.
Yeah,
so
no.
we actually have other people that's actually on this particular live stream. So it's going to be a panel discussion. So this is unlike some of the other podcasts that we've done before. Most of the time we have the panel discussion. We just have the guest and we have the co-host, and then we just have an interactive dialogue, but we want to have people engaged in this particular one because, you know, this is Black History Month, and we've made a conscientious effort to try to, you know, create more awareness of Black initiatives and be able to help build Black households, build healthy boundaries, and establish positive social economic outcomes. So we all come from different backgrounds, different walks of lives. And so it's really special for this particular episode. And this is something I do look forward to do a little bit more often, you know, where we do like a Black History Month related event. And because of coronavirus at the time, we wasn't, you know, comfortable being able to have everybody together. So in person, so hopefully we'll be able to do that next year. So before we go into that, I did want to do a quick little slide presentation. And so the title of this particular seminar is the Mahogany Thoughts panel discussion from Black Wall Street to Beyond. Myself, we got Carmel Brown, licensed clinical professional counselors. Did I get those letters right? Yeah, good. It makes me happy. And then Devon Moody-Graham, who has our MBA, and Mr. Butler. He's on the list. He's always with us in spirit if he's not in person. So about myself, for those who don't know who I am, quick background about myself. I'm an associate faculty member. I teach at 3 or 4 different universities. I teach in the areas of the healthcare, MBA classes, doctoral business classes. I'm also a dissertation chair. I got 7 or 8 people working on a dissertation under my leadership. I have authored 3 different books, and I'm also a small business consultant. So I have experience in advising businesses on a larger scale and from a smaller scales, from PMP boot camps all the way down to starting small businesses. I have been published and presented in numerous academic conferences across the country. And there's my personal email address if you have any questions, as well as my website. And I look really debonair in that picture. And I look like I'm trying to find something to eat in that picture. It was really bright that day. And then here's my partner in crime, Queen Carmel Brown. For those who haven't seen the previous episodes, I'll call her Queen Carmel because she had this really cool throne chair. We haven't seen the chair in quite some time, but we still have it on video. So it's already, you know, officially written, kind of like Nas. So that chair will always be part of Mahogany Thoughts lore. Mrs. Carmel is a licensed clinician in private practice. She is a co-owner of Club Exhilaration Wellness Center. She's a published author of 2 books, and I've read the second book. I love the second book. It was really good. She's also a co-host and also a business partner. We have actually done some joint ventures together. She's a public speaker and a corporate training facilitator, and she is multifaceted, because when I say that this lady is all over in a positive fashion, that is the facts. I mean, she helps everybody from individuals, couples, families, and corporations, and her website is provided on the slide for those who are able to see it. Our other partner in crime is Devon Moody-Graham. She's a Chief Solutions Officer and CEO of Mom Empire LLC. I had to add this from a previous slide because Ms. Devon has also been on the move. She's an international business consultant. So she's actually went to Paris to do a business entrepreneurship courses, as well as working with other entities and businesses overseas in Paris. And she will be going back there again in the near future. So that's really, really amazing to hear about that. She's worked with over 500 plus businesses and 15,000 youths in entrepreneurship and professional training. She has also served on select White House committees on technology and entrepreneur access. And she's a finalist in the SCORE and Sam's Club Small Business Championship. And her website is provided below. Coolest cat on the planet, damn it, Terence Butler. He's our resident zoologist. For those who haven't listened to a previous episode, Butler got his bachelor's in science in zoology. There was a funny story to it. So every time that, we bring it up, he's our resident zoologist. He's an entrepreneur, and he's been in the financial services industry for his particular business for over 10 years. He has over 15 plus years in experience in the financial services and insurance industry. He is also a mentor and for a previous collaboration we did with Black Money STL, and his website is included below. So we want to talk about Black Wall Street first. And so I guess I bring everybody back on board. So there's this romanticism with Black Wall Street, and rightfully so. And so almost 100 years ago, Black Wall Street was created out of necessity because of they wanted to escape economic, social, and political oppression at the time post-slavery, and also during the Jim Crow laws. And so the dollar, when we talk about dollar recirculation, a dollar is how it recirculates back in the community is very important. And so if you look at it from 100 years ago, a dollar back then lasted for 19 months. So that means that same dollar exchanged hands as different businesses, different households up for 19 months. Now it's only 6 hours. So that means that $1 only lasts in the Black community for 6 hours. It is unfortunately one of the lowest dollar recirculations out of any ethnic group. As I believe the second lowest is maybe 30 days, just going off the top of my head. Because of the Wall Street Massacre, the Black Wall Street Massacre that happened when a Black man had allegedly raped a white woman, it triggered a mob action where they had over 1,500, again, I'm going off these numbers off the top of my head, but 1,500 white men and militia had attacked the Black community of Greenwood and created a massacre. It was one of the biggest massacres in U.S. history, where the estimated value for the destruction was the equivalent of $150 million today. So households, businesses were destroyed, and we really haven't seen anything since, as far as that community. We've seen different pockets as far as Harlem's concerned, and different smaller neighborhoods and stuff, maybe in Atlanta or DC, but everything, the genesis started off with Black Wall Street, because one of the first noted Black businessmen, O.W. Gurley, supposedly was the first Black person to start a business in the United States back in 1917. So what does that mean for us today? We can look at Black Wall Street as a historical marker and a compass of sorts, but there are some different areas for us to address to kind of go back to that quote unquote revitalization, if there is a way to get back to the revitalization at all. So that's going to be something that we'll be talking about, as far as what does that mean for Black households, Black businesses, and Black families. There are some troubling indicators 100 years ago from Black Wall Street. And so some of them include that home ownership rates are lower than it was to pre-civil rights. So that means that Black home ownership rates were lower than it was when we were segregated as a people. Poverty is near a 3-to-1 ratio from Blacks compared to whites. And some of the more startling numbers, despite the number of Black businesses that exist in this country today, 2% of the businesses in the United States are Black owned, but they only account for 0.3% of the country's revenue. So despite $1.2 trillion in spending power, we only account for 0.3% of that business, direct business revenue. And the other thing as well is that out of the 2 million Black owned businesses in the United States today, only 7% of those Black owned businesses employ more than 6 employees. So even though that, and there are some other numbers that that I'm going to pull off the top of my head that's not actually on the slides, but we are African Americans are more likely to start a business than any other ethnic group at a 50% clip. So which is really, is really discouraging in a lot of ways because of the fact that we are creating businesses, but we're creating a lot of solo businesses, and we're straying away from partnerships and collaborations and doing, things where we're trying to build together. And so what really makes this particular podcast special for me, and Carmel and Devin herself, is that we're all coming together and we're starting to do this with more regularity. I've only known, Carmel and Devin for the past year or two, but they are some of my more trusted advisors, and people that I can bounce ideas off of, especially Carmel. Carmel and I, we talk almost every week, and if I don't call her, she calls me and stuff. And and I do the same with Devin, with a good regularity. And I think it's really important for us to understand, the importance of building relationships, amongst each other and stuff. And even if it's not about developing a Black business, there are some other areas and stuff that we need to be concerned as well. So for example, out of all the Black house businesses that's listed out of 2 million, the average revenue is $58,000. Compared to the median household income in the United States is 61,000. So that means that the Black businesses in general are generating revenue less than an average U.S. household. And actually, the numbers are actually a little bit smaller for Black business growth compared to that of Black household growth. And I think it's by $1,500. And so, although that, we do have some very aspiring and accomplished professionals in the world of businesses, such as Carmel, Devin, and myself, and Mr. Butler, we understand too that we have a moral obligation to ensure that we continue these conversations. And it's not always about business. Carmel and I always talk about this in a podcast for those who listened earlier on Mahogany Thoughts on Spotify and on other sources. But we have to understand the family dynamic, the family unit, and building relationships with other people. And it doesn't necessarily mean husband and wife. It doesn't have to be cousins or whatever the case may be and stuff, but men and women can get along in a Black community. And it's important for us to try to reestablish some of the energy that was provided in Black Wall Street. So that's my opening salvo for this particular discussion. And I know, Devin, I know that you have to leave to get your daughter, so we'll go ahead and let you start off first, and to speak your piece, and then we'll go ahead and segue to Carmel before we have into an open roundtable discussion.
Okay, great. So I'm in a unique position right now. First, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen with us. I love the conversations that we've had and been able to have over the last year. And the unique position I've been placed in is to really look at not only that we need to build within the United States, but also how much impact African American people and people within the African diaspora have made across the world. As I've been traveling back and forth to Europe and just really looking at the fact that even as I'm doing so much in Paris, there's so much that's different than the United States, and there's so much that's the same when we look at African American people here. There's still areas in which our people are in. Like when I do events, I try to find Black owned spaces, places to do things, and I've been able to build those relationships. And thinking about the fact that even across the world, you still have these areas in which it's almost like people are saying, okay, you're going to do business mostly here and not everywhere. And so I think that it's our job to empower, especially with so much information, more access to capital and more access to information, that we empower ourselves not to just grow here, but to grow across the world, because we built that too. I actually did a Facebook post this earlier. I think I was kind of getting a little emotional thinking about all the things that we as a people, as Black people, as we were crossing and making that trip and trail, we're every, continent around the world. And you have 400 or 500 years of slavery, even within Europe, so we built that too. So it's like, even more so, it's time for us to reclaim and retake our place within the United States, because we're creating more businesses, but as you said, our businesses aren't even making about the same amount as like households, where we should be creating jobs and making more money. And some other studies just around women and Black women, looking at the access to capital as far as venture capitalists, it was like less than 1%, like less than 1% of these billions of dollars that's going out to these technological companies, and only less than 1% is going to Black women, but still we're being ranked as the most innovative people. That's a problem. How are we still the most innovative in this space, but we're not getting the capital to go along with it, right? So I guess if I were to say anything to like push and motivate people wherever they are in their lives, and not everyone needs to own a business, like you said, if you even getting life insurance or investing money, that's the way. Everybody doesn't have to own a business, but try to support the businesses that are within your community so that our dollar won't, go right out. As soon as we make it, our dollar is out of our communities. So for me, it's more important for people to find out what part or what they want their legacy to be, and what they can best do to set themselves up first, and then set their families up secondly, to not get it out the mud. And that's the term that we have started talking about so often, as I think about people. And I hope it's not exclusively, a Black thing, so to speak, but I hear more and more, well, I did this, or I struggle, or I did this, so they need to figure that out too. Now, learning lessons on your own, that's fine. Yes, my son needs to learn lessons, my daughters need to learn lessons, but they don't need to grudge and struggle in a way that sets them either further behind, simply because that's the way it happened for previous generations. Had a conversation with my dad real briefly this morning, and my daughter was eating Biscoff cookies. And I thought about the fact that the first time, and she's 3, the first time I had a Biscoff cookie, I was an adult on a flight, So each generation, that's something very small, but I only mention that because each generation should get information. They should get access to items sooner than the generation before them. And so if you're not setting yourself up in a way that you are allowing your children, if you don't have children, your nieces and nephews, that next generation behind you, for them to get access to things quicker than you have, then you're doing the world a disservice, and you're doing your people a disservice. So my thing is, make sure that we are creating a world in this, the next generation needs to get it faster, because we're already far behind. And it's not because we did something wrong. It's because how the world was built. And since the world was built in this way, we have to find a way to pull each other up quicker, because it was already set for us to stay so far behind. And as sooner people really realize this, or, as they say, stay woke or whatever, it's just realize it, recognize it, and let's create solutions. Because for anybody who knows me, I'm not going to sit around just talking about the problems all the time. We want to talk about the solutions, because we know the problems. So how do we get to the solutions? And that's anywhere around the world. So as we look at this, like you said, it's not just about you starting a business. It's about you creating a way, creating sustainability so that the next generation can thrive.
I agree.
Because we can't get those years back. We can't get the 400 or 500 years back. We can't get 1,000 years back. We can never get that time back. All we can do is plan for the now. And so when I think about the fact that, nobody talked to my parents about credit and savings and things. And my dad was a first generation business owner figuring it out. But by the time I came along, he had his policies in place, and he had all these things in place. He told me to take care of your credit and all those things. I didn't listen. I'm repairing, I didn't listen. But now when he graduates, my son already has cards in his name. He has UGMAs. I have Roth IRA. He has a 529. Because each generation should get better and better. And so he won't have the debt that I had, and he won't have to do the things and rebuild, because I know more. And as they say, when you know better, you do better, or you should. And so it's my goal that with, his children, should he choose to have children, his children, they will have it even quicker, because Granny's gonna make sure that they're set up, you know, even more so than my grandparents knew to do. So if I could just leave anything for people, is to think of setting yourself up and making things better for the next generation. Although we can't get the years back, we know what happened. We know what happened, and we know the remnants of what has happened and how deep rooted it is. But it's up to us to make sure that the next generation and within our lifetimes as well, see that we can get further along and leave legacy for others.
Thank you. And, you know, just to add to that comment too, you know, you said it's not just about, you know, black and white. It's not, and this, where we are right now, it's not a battle between black and white. You know, I had a conversation, you know, with Carmel earlier, you know, and look, 98, maybe 99% of our income does not come from black sources. And for the content and stuff that I really do, you know, currently at this moment, a lot of people are not going to support those services. A lot of people are not going to pay $2,000 for a boot camp class in project management. Those people are not going to pay $3,000 for me to do a diversity and inclusion workshop, you know. But I think what you're saying to your larger point is that we have a moral obligation once we're able to quote unquote make it, to be able to make sure that we reach out to others. Like we have a brother, James Jackson, on here. I met him last week and just told him about some of the ideas I had in mind. And so I may not be able to support him personally or financially and stuff, but that doesn't mean that I can't support him philosophically. And so it's, you know, we have to reflect our culture in ways to show that, hey, we can do these things and build households, build a safe structure, you know, through insurance and 529s and things like that. But we also have to, you know, be reflective in the reality and stuff that if we're only generating less than $60,000 of income annually for, you know, black households across the country, that means that we have a limited base for what we're going to do for certain skill sets to be able to promote. Now, it depends. Certain services, yeah, but you know, there are some other services and stuff where the reality is that, you know, we would have to do what they call social entrepreneurship and taking some of your successes and then dovetail it back into the community. And that's really what the point of Mahogany Thoughts and Mahogany Legacy Project is. It's recognizing those deficiencies, because we're not going to be able, I don't think realistically we're going to have another Black Wall Street, because we're too integrated and we're too spread out. You know, life has changed and we have changed along with it. So thank you, Miss Carmel, Queen Carmel.
Well, I don't have very much to say. I think you two have definitely covered it all. But I will add a couple of things. I do agree with you on the fact that there may not ever be another Black Wall Street, and it may not even be necessary at this point. You know, like Devin said, you know, it's bigger than our immediate area. You know, we're talking about an entire world here, and it has to be, it's bigger than us. So, you know, but Black people, we've always been innovators. We've always been creators. You know, we've always been hard workers. We've always been the builders, you know, and, you know, that is great, but we have to make sure that with that creation, with that innovation, with all the building that we're doing, that we are developing those relationships. You know, business is relationships. That's really what it entails, building relationships with other people. I mean, anywhere down from your payroll company to your staff, you know, you're not going to retain staff if you don't have the ability to maintain healthy relationships, you know, and you know, that goes without being said. And so that's important. And the other thing is, I'm just glad that we are having this discussion. You know, it's great that we're having it during Black History Month, but personally, it's just like whenever there's a crisis in the Black community or that impacts the Black community, we talk about it in the height of the moment, but we lose that momentum as time goes. And I would like to see the conversation continue moving forward, and the building and togetherness move forward beyond Black History Month, and let this just be a way of life that we are collaborating with and educating each other and signing on with each other, so that we can continue to do great things together. And it's important for us to all understand, and not just Black people, also our non-African Americans as well. It's important for everybody to understand why it's important for all of us to support Black businesses. You know, the other day I was in a Facebook group, and a non-African American made a comment in the group stating, well, somebody that was African-American, I think they were African-American, I would assume they were, it looked like they were, made a statement saying, can you give me the list of Black, I think they were asking for Black-owned coffee shops, and I can't remember what the other businesses were they were asking for, but they were searching for Black-owned businesses. And there were several people commenting, giving, information and answering his question, giving him some locations that would be good to support. And then there was a non-African American that chimed in and was obviously very angry. And he said, is no one going to confront this racist BS? If I were to get on here and say, where are all the white-owned businesses, that wouldn't fly. And so, I had to try and help him to understand that the person that posted this wasn't being racist at all. That most of what all of us spend, Black people as well, 90+% of what we spend don't go to Black businesses. And we have a responsibility here to make sure that we are seeking out those businesses and that we are supporting them and that we are highlighting them, we're sharing them. If you know me, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I'm always sharing other people's stuff. I know a lot of people don't do that. I don't mind doing that because I think it's important that we do that because we're gonna share non-African American businesses. We're gonna support them, we always have.
Yeah.
And so it's not racist to support and look for and really do our homework and find out where those Black businesses are. It's not racist. It is a responsibility that we have as Americans. And to our non-African American citizens and business owners, we hear a lot of things, and we always have historically about African Americans wanting something given to them or not doing the work and so on and so forth. If we want African Americans to be responsible for our stuff, for our wealth, then we have to support when Black people are building things. We have to encourage that, we have to perpetuate it, and everyone has to get on board. All right, so I just wanted to say that Black business is business. Black business is American business.
Absolutely.
Support it.
Absolutely. And and Carmel made some really good points and stuff. And I always like to, bounce ideas off of Carmel and stuff. So offline and everything. And so I guess, just thinking about some of the stuff that we talked about today, and even just what you just mentioned about, how important is it for us? I mean, well, what can you recommend for us psychologically to kind of get some of those, get over some of those, mental hurdles, whether it's a starting a business or even just, addressing the small little things for, budgeting, saving, and investing. There is a psychology associated with financial literacy. And so it's really important stuff that it doesn't matter about how much money that you make right now. It doesn't matter how much money you made 10 years ago. It's about what you do with your current income. So how would you address some of the, I guess, the mental roadblocks? And again, this is not just a Black History Month moment, but I just think for anybody that's listening for the conversation, how would you be able to address that?
Well, the first thing is to make sure that you have support. Very often we try to take the reins on our own. I see a lot of well-intentioned new Black business owners starting up. Devin, you are a startup, guru. So I'm sure you see a lot of them, but they aren't seeking out the help and the resources and the guidance that they need coming out of the gate. So making sure that you are seeking someone, some help to talk to a mental health professional about what you might be dealing with and what you might be carrying from your past, from previous generations, financially or otherwise, into your ventures business-wise. And also as we start our families, not just starting our businesses, but starting our families, we have to look at any generational issues that might follow us or precede us. And the other thing is get with a business coach or a consultant. When I started my first business 8 years ago, I didn't have a coach or a consultant. I did it all myself. And then now I see all of us coaches here and consultants, I'm like, wow, I didn't have a Devin back then. I didn't have a Dr. Duncan. I didn't have a Carmel Brown. Mm-hmm. And that's why we really do value what we do, because we understand the importance of that support and having someone to hold your hand and having someone to let you know that you have to get yourself. I have a part in my last book, and Dr. Duncan, you read it. I have a small section in there that talks about dealing with yourself first. before going into business, making sure that you're well. I have seen people ruin business relationships just like they ruin interpersonal relationships because they're not well, they're not emotionally and mentally equipped to maintain what they have initiated. And, and that goes from just not being emotionally intelligent or having untreated symptoms. Maybe you're dealing with anxiety or depression and you're not seeing someone you're not seeing a therapist, you're not taking medication when you need to be. And that sometimes results in poor impulse control, an inability to communicate with other people in a healthy manner, inability to resolve conflict and such. So once again, business is about relationships. And if we're not well, we're not going to maintain healthy relationships.
Thank you. And again, another question, just to dovetail on that, what do you recommend outside of business? Now we're talking about households. How do you maintain that communication between a partner? It doesn't necessarily have to be husband, wife. You can be cohabitating or, whatever the situation may be and stuff. But how do you maintain it? How are you able to open those lines of communication with your partner and stuff? Because if you're building, a legacy with two individuals, how are you able to do that? And by extension, you're saying about finding a business coach or whatever the case may be and stuff. How does somebody who might have some trepidation and reaching out to somebody, that could provide them, services, how are you able to kind of overcome that to say, hey, this is what I want, this is how I'm going to go out to get it? Because I think a lot of times it just comes from us self-sabotaging. I'm not a therapist, but I think about some of my personal situations in the past. I've self-sabotaged a lot to the point where I've done more damage than good, so how are you able to open those lines of communication, not only amongst your own spouse or your partner, but even among your own family members, your cousins or your friends, about financial literacy and building wealth?
Absolutely. That's a really, really good question. And I work with a lot of business owners in therapy, and I work with a lot of couples that are working on building businesses together in therapy. And it is overwhelming. Those of you who are business owners, you understand that just being a business owner alone there's a lot of stress that comes with that. There's a lot of different components and bricks that have to be laid with building a business. And so when you have a spouse, it's important that you communicate on an ongoing basis, not just one communication, not just one conversation, but on an ongoing basis about what your plans are, what your challenges are, and where you need them, when you need help from them, when you need support from them. And it's important that you achieve a healthy level of acceptance, that your family members, your spouse, your friends, your support system may not always understand why you're doing what you're doing. And they may have some fears that maybe you don't have based on that lack of understanding. So it's important for you to not take that personal. They have the right to not necessarily agree with what you're doing, and they have the right to be afraid that this may cause some financial difficulty. So you have to provide reassurance and support for them. And sometimes as business owners, we get very upset with our spouses because we feel like they're not supporting me. They're not encouraging me. They're not on my team, that type of thing. And sometimes it's just that they are afraid and they don't understand because they're conditioned or wired a different way. Entrepreneurs are wired totally different than most people. I mean, it takes a special kind of person to just say, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to just walk away from this 9-to-5 and build my own thing. And hey, I did it, left a state job. And sometimes it's something that other people can't understand. And we have to make sure that we're not judging them and we're not taking it personal for not understanding, but that we ask for support and that we're open and honest with them, even about what our fears are, about what our concerns are, and also what our financial struggles are. Because a lot of couples that I work with that are entrepreneurs and their spouse isn't, they hide what's happening financially from their spouse, because the spouse is already, not in agreement or afraid, and that just causes more problems. And so getting with a therapist is also very helpful so that you can work through those things. Some of my couples that I work with that are business owners together, or just one person is a business owner, some of them come to me for marriage counseling, but they may go to an individual counselor or therapist, by themselves as well, and work on their individual or personal things. Or one of them might be coming to me for individual therapy, but going to someone else, the two of them, for marriage therapy. So it's important to make sure that you're able to process all of the different layers that come with it. And that once again, you're communicating on an ongoing basis and lacking or getting rid of that judgment. The judgment is something that's very, very harmful to a marriage whenever you're dealing with business ownership. And like I said, acceptance
Absolutely.
that, hey, they're not going to understand, they're not going to agree with it. So what are my boundaries here? Like, what can I do and what can I not do without ruining my marriage?
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
in the chat box and stuff, it says they may not know how to support in that capacity either. So Devin, I'm going to turn this one to you. And, I know that you have fought pretty hard to get to where you are in your life and stuff. Like, Carmel said, you are a self-startup guru. You have accomplished a whole lot in your lifetime. But, when it comes down to capacity of support, and, I'm not going to put your life on display or anything like that, but just, I guess, amongst the community, how are you able to encourage people to really buy into what you're trying to do and say that it is okay to think outside the box or to do something that could be a betterment of your immediate family, as well as your friends or your family members or even others in the community?
You know what? That's such a good question. And I'm still working through that, because to be an entrepreneur, especially full time, it is a lot. And you got to be a little crazy to do it, because you can have some of the highest highs and the lowest lows, and until you get to the point where you kind of smooth selling. And so I'm definitely nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm definitely at a smooth selling, not worried about things point right now. What I would say, and obviously she doesn't care, of course, that I'm working.
She's on the podcast too.
Yeah, she's on the podcast too. She doesn't care at all. But what I would say is, really, when it comes to, depending on what your business is, know that all the time, your immediate friends and family, they're probably not going to support, not because they don't want to. Yes, you can have those challenges, but mostly because they're not your customer. They're not even the person that you're supposed to be serving. Shh, give me 1 second, baby. Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. Wait a minute.
So while she's dealing with technical difficulties.
Yeah. Well, Devin's making some really good points, and I completely agree with what she's saying. And, we have to make sure that we don't put that burden on our loved ones, that they have to support our businesses, because a lot of people do get very angry when their friends and family members aren't supporting their business, and it's important that we're just honest with each other and with ourselves about everything, every aspect or layer of business. I think Devin's back.
Yep.
No.
She said no.
She said no.
Back, I think I'm back. Okay. No, but that's what you said. A lot of times what very new business owners may not understand is that, yes, you have this great idea for a product or a service, but unless you've really done the work to understand your business plan, business model, because a lot of times we just do transactional things and there's not really a business model created around. So we just say, I have a business my friends or family should support, but they're not even your target audience. So it's like it's twofold. Yes, you may have people who are upset that, or they may be jealous, as you say. There's very few people. I mean, nobody cares that much. It's so much going on in the world. I don't think there's, maybe most people have people who are really just on them and want their demise. But I would say it's more so about, they're not your target audience. But if you never even figured out who your target audience was, then you can't even put that in your mind. You're just thinking, I'm spending money and I'm doing this and I'm building this business, and Sam, Joanne, and Tracy are not buying, and I support them. If they ask me to do something, I buy Girl Scout cookies, but nobody's buying my candles. Maybe they don't buy candles often anyway. Maybe they're not your customer. So a lot of things, it's very emotional to become an entrepreneur as well. So I think a lot of times, if you don't have a strong base and to know who your customers are, that's the first thing that can hurt relationships down the road. I think about when I started my first business. I started my first business almost 14 years ago. And when I had my business launch event, it was like 13 years ago. My friends, they didn't really know what I was doing. I decided not to go on a Vegas trip and spend my money and have this launch event so I could get my business out there. And they still didn't have a clue what I was doing. Guess what? They were there setting up tables, passing out food, and whatever they could do to help me in that way. So find ways. If people really want their family and friends to support, they can, if they really want them there, they can ask them to support in very specific ways, and they'll just assume that they're going to be a paying customer. So I think that's one thing, just there's ways, other ways, especially with social media. Share it, send it out, refer. There's other ways that people can support. And so that takes away that anxiety within that part. The other piece I would say is do your research. We have small business development centers all across the country. Take advantage of those. Look at SCORE. There's resources that exist. And when you've exhausted those free resources and those minimum cost resources, invest in a business coach. Because just like Carmel, I didn't have a coach. I literally knew nobody who was doing what I wanted to do at the time. I later found someone in Atlanta that I met through a alumni networking event because I went to U of I, and she was in Atlanta, and she sent me a couple of documents, and we stay in touch to this day. But there was really nobody that looked like me that was doing what I was doing. There was nobody that I felt comfortable with asking. And so had I had a mentor or a coach back then, I'm doing well now, but I would have been killing it. I know it because I would have skipped some steps.
Absolutely. We got another question from one of the attendees, and it says, what are some ways you adapted to the various challenges you face and lack of support when starting your business? I'll go ahead and answer this real quickly, and we just, pass it around the room for a quick minute or two. Some of the ways that I adapted to the various challenges is you just got to keep on adjusting. You have to realize that, and I've spoken to Carmel about this, numerous times, you're going to be isolated a lot of times. When you're trying to start it, and Devin, I know we talked about this before, a lot of times we're going to be isolated, it's not saying that we don't have support, we don't have a strong structure or anything like that, but for what we're doing is so unique and so passionate that there's going to be times where you're going to feel like you're on an island, and you're going to have highs and lows. And so you just, every day you just try to find a positive of every situation. If you spend, whereas, prior to getting to a business and doing some of these different entrepreneurial efforts, if I had a bad drive to work or whatever, that would set me off the entire day. Now I can't get set off the entire day for something that happened at 9 o'clock in the morning. You have to always be able to adjust. You have to adapt. You got to have a short memory. You're going to have days where you're burnt out. There's days and stuff where you're fighting. I had breakfast with somebody last week, and it was expressing just some of the deeper frustrations I had about some things. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't going to keep going, but it was just more so I was tired. I have these days scheduled, and I'm gonna do this and do that, but you're just going to be tired, and you're just going to have to find a different level of mental acuity just to keep pushing. The other thing too is that you got to take care of your body. You have to take care of your body and your mind. And I know, Carmel, we talked about this numerous times through numerous podcast episodes, and through some of your own private, podcast episodes. You have to take care of your mind and body. If you're not taking care of your mind and body, if you're not getting enough rest, if you're drinking every night or smoking every day or whatever the case may be, you're not going to be sharp. Because while you're sitting here resting and sleeping throughout the day and feeling, oh, what was me, there's about 3 or 5 other people that's doing something way much more. And then if you keep on adding it up, they're going to pass you by. So you have to be able to take care of your mind. You have to take care of your body, and you just have to try to find a positive, all the time. I don't journal, but I have a things to do list, and I set my things to do list every day of the week, starting on Saturday or Sunday. And if I accomplish those things, by the time I finish my last task on that list, it's done. And those things on that list are basically time allocated for every time to be the same. So technically, I probably work 30 hours a week, but it's 7 days a week. As far as actual physical activity, everything else may be meetings and Zooms and all this other stuff. But I always make sure that I cap the amount of energy that I produce every day about the same, because I know my level of productivity. Some people, and Carmel, Devin, I don't know if y'all do this and stuff, y'all might work way much later at night. 8 o'clock at night, I'm done.
Well, I know for me, 30 hours, I spend 30 hours just doing therapy sessions. I may have 30 sessions per week. That's not including paperwork and all the other things that, you know, talking to different entities about different things and contracts and so on and so forth. But you're absolutely right. You know, I know this law of attraction planner. I love this thing, you know,
Hold it
because
up
it's kind of
again.
like a law of attraction planner. So it's kind of like it's a journal and a planner in one. And it gives you the option of setting your goals, doing a little bit of journaling, tracking healthy habits that you're trying to maintain, and capture your week coming in and going out, and your month, you know, like how productive were you for the month? Did you accomplish what you were trying to? And it's also a planner. So it's really helpful for me. You know, of course, I have a database that I keep all of my practice management, my business stuff in, but this is my personal life and the way I take care of myself, because 30 hours is just me sitting across and doing therapy sessions. That does not include the other 20, 30 hours of stuff that I have to do. So, you know, and like right now, self-care is really important for me. You know, right now, like last week, I had 12 new people on my calendar just for that week. In addition to my regular people, just 12 new clients. And so I used to take, and Terrence, you know, I used to have Tuesdays and Fridays were really light. Nowadays, I just logged off.
I ain't heard from you all day till like 5:30.
Yeah, absolutely. I just finished the session right before I logged on at 6. But here's the thing, having a family as well, this is a time where I've had to ask my husband to do some things that I need him to do, because the mental health crisis that we're facing as a society has, you know, resulted in this influx. I've also hired more therapists, you know, so that's why I'm on the phone with payroll early, like payroll's going up, but hey, you know, look, that's a whole nother therapy session for me, you know, payroll's going up.
Right.
But you know, but you ask for help, you know, and that's important. Something that we struggle to do is ask for help. You know, I had a meeting with all of my therapists last night. We had a team meeting, and I told everyone, you know, what I needed from them and just thank them for being who they are. But once again, relationships, letting them know how important they are to me. And then telling my husband what I need him to do over at Club Exhilaration. You know, when we get emails of someone trying to get in over there for fitness and wellness, sending that to him like, hey, check your email, because I just sent a new referral for that, because I can't give that the time and attention. So making sure you're prioritizing things, making sure you're getting that sleep. I've been going to sleep really early as much as possible, because those cortisol levels in your body with that stress hormone, I mean, those stress hormones can really wreak havoc on your body. So you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, proper nutrition, and find an outlet, you know, exercise. I'll be at Club Exhilaration working out tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. So
I'll still be sleeping. I'll be still asleep. Devin?
You know what? I watch you a lot, Carmel, and I know over the years we've had several conversations, but really, I count it a win when I can do something that I've heard you write in a post or say to me personally. And I can really say over these last 2 years is when I have really actually started to set boundaries. There's only so many boundaries I can make with a 3-year-old now, but because she doesn't care at all. But she understands mommy's tired. She said, oh, well, I'll lay down with you, mommy. And as long as she's quiet, I'm okay. I communicate when I have long days. I communicate more with my children, with my husband. And I have to ask for help. And I was just nodding my head like, why are you talking to me like this? Why are you all in my business? You know? But a lot of times we don't ask for help. And I have just started to ask for more help from everybody. Okay. Because I have not been burnt out in over like going on 4 years now. Cause I had like severe burnout like 4 years ago. I was about to lose it right before I had my last baby. And I vowed once I got pregnant that I would never do that again. Once I start slowing down and prioritizing, and even though I'm doing some big things, I'm pacing myself, and I'm glad that I'm doing things differently. And I go to bed and I know what naps are. Like I didn't find out what naps were until like 4 years ago. I kid y'all not. 4 years ago, finally
Dr.
started.
Duncan is the king of naps. If you want some therapy on napping,
I got
Dr.
you.
Duncan.
How many times I put a post about me napping? I took a fat one today from 1
I
o'clock to
literally have called
1:45.
him on several occasions, and I get a text back saying, I'm getting ready to take a nap. I'll call you back later.
And I sure will call her back. I'll literally say, how's your nap? It's splendid. I am the king of naps.
But that's setting boundaries. And one day he said something to me about like, almost like he felt bad. And I said, hey, as a therapist, I'm happy because he set a boundary. He's like, I didn't have to answer the phone when she called. I let her know I was getting ready to take care of myself and I'll get back with her. And he did get back with me. But taking care of yourself, setting those boundaries, and people that care about you and respect you and understand what you're doing are going to love that you're doing that.
I love it. And I go to bed and I wake up earlier. I find it now I'm starting to wake up early. I'm starting to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'll just kind of set myself. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be up all morning, but if I'm up at 3 and something's on, I'll jot it down, clear my mind and try to rest. But sometimes I can wake up early, get things done, knock it off my plate, and then go back to bed, get the kids out to school, get things done. And my day is done earlier and I'm able to relax. So I'm finding that new normal. And I'm just like thinking about productivity, what you said, we're only productive a certain number of hours a day. Give us about 4 or 5 hours tops. Yeah, people are at work 8-10 hours. After 5 hours, nobody's productive. Not really. Not unless you happen to be on your feet, and move. So just listening to my body, and I am better for it. And just thinking about the fact, of course, we're dealing with everything around economy but business. I actually make more money now that I take better care of myself. I'm serious. Like if there's a correlation, I take better care of myself, have more time, and I make more money. So that all goes together.
Sure. Kiara is saying that she has to leave. Do you want to give her some opportunity to speak before she logs off?
Yeah, if she wants to say something real quick, Kiara, she actually has Cafe Biz 618. I wanted to give her a shout out real quick. I think she's probably already hopped off and stuff, but she actually has a co-working space out in Fairview Heights and stuff. And she actually, if I remember right, she won an incubator grant through the state of Illinois. And so I support it. I actually use a virtual mail-in address, use the actual location for a virtual mail-in address. And I do hope to have more interaction with this Cafe Biz to do workshops and things of that nature. I know that it is highly productive and functioning now post-COVID. I'm really glad to hear that. And she is a very dynamic sister. So I think she's already off watching Criminal Minds, but I do want to give other people an opportunity to ask us questions. And before we do, and just in closing, thanks, Devin. I know you have to go, so appreciate you too. In closing, we just want to say that, going back to the original discussion of Black Wall Street, you've seen how this conversation have evolved, and that's the beauty of what we try to do, not only in a podcast, but just through our intentional efforts, day in and day out through our interactions with other people. If you ever interact with Carmel or Devin outside of a podcast or outside of work, their personalities is the same and as authentic as you see online. And I sincerely mean that and stuff. And Carmel has talked to me from jumping off the ledge many a times, and I really am very appreciative of that. Excuse me. And the other thing too is that I wanted to make a point, is that it's very important for us to continue to maintain these lines of communication amongst each other. We have to stop being divisive. We have to stop feeling that it's all about us, and that we have to be humble and to say, hey, I don't know all the answers and I don't know everything. And Carmela will tell you, there's a lot of times on the phone that I will actually defer. It doesn't matter what I know, or what I've done. I'm always saying, hey, Carmel, what do you think, or whatever the case may be, because I value her insight. Dr. Allen, who's actually on here, and Dr. Langford, I validate insight as well too. And we actually did presentations and stuff. So as we continue to look at what Black Wall Street means for tomorrow, we want to try to build regional collaborations, because, Dr. Allen and Dr. Langford are in North Carolina and in Florida. And one of Dr. Allen's students actually is on this podcast. Hello, Jason. And it's really important for us to start doing business with them as well, so let's not just keep it internally within our own geographical markets. We have to start looking at being able to do things elsewhere. If you look at direct foreign investments in different countries, like in Africa, they're coming from places like Russia, China, and France, but we're not having that much interaction in or activity into that. We do have, and I made a comment about, where the majority of our current sources of income are coming from. That's not saying that we wouldn't mind providing to the Black community direct services that would be beneficial to them. But the reality is that maybe that, through our actions, intentionally and unintentionally, we can be able to help build companies that become global brands, right? If we can we can be able to, if we can be able to start a company that employs 15 to 20 other people. Carmel is a job creator. When she started her practice, I don't know if that was an original design, but you're a job creator. I mean, you're employing other therapists and stuff. You are getting inundated with a bunch of people who are looking for therapy services and things of that nature, which is a great thing and stuff. But the byproduct of that is the fact that now you're able to employ other people and you're putting more bread on their table. And so even like Brother Jackson, who I met last week and stuff at an O'Fallon Chamber event, we maintained a line of communication. He actually reached out to me because I actually forgot to hit him back. I'm sorry, bro. But, but we want to maintain that line of communication and stuff, because maybe that helps gives him exposure. And that's maybe what really Black Wall Street is about today. It's not so much because we're not moving back to the same neighborhoods. Everybody, I mean, I'm not from East St. Louis, but people who are on this call that's from East St. Louis, the majority of y'all not going back to East St. Louis. Yeah, I don't see it in the near future. Just like people who grew up in the South Side of Chicago, they're not moving back to the South Side of Chicago. That's just the new reality. But that doesn't mean that we cannot provide social entrepreneurship programs and provide support on an emotional basis to be able to help rebuild our community. So I wanted to share before we go around and take questions from the room, the Mahogany Legacy Project. And so this project has actually been in motion for several years, but this is probably the most aggressive I've been about speaking about it, and that was intentional by design. But what the Mahogany Legacy Project is, and the book just came out recently on the same title, it focuses on 5 key economic areas such as healthcare, education, financial independence, employment, and social change. It provides an emphasis on building healthy boundaries and relationships, achieving generational wealth, business development, as well as addressing racial wealth and educational attainment disparity gaps. It is an evidence-based approach. So the stuff that I'm talking about on the book, or if you see me provide a post through LinkedIn, Twitter, IG, or Facebook, it's not inflammatory. Those are based in facts. So I'm not, I try to be intentional about whatever I say is coming from research, and instead of just making randomized opinions that's not, grounded in facts. But it also recognizes that it requires ongoing collaboration, partnerships, and engagement. So, a theme that you heard Carmel and Devin and myself say repeatedly is that, the reality is that some of our economic indicators are very low at the point to try to accelerate economic growth. So we have to rely on some of these sources, such as SBA loans. We have to rely on government contracting. We have to rely on business relationships with people who do not look Black. Because that is the reality too. So if you are building a cybersecurity firm and you're of color, if you're trying to sell cybersecurity to many of the Black businesses who might be, selling different, maybe e-commerce or whatever the case may be, they may not actually go for that particular type of firm. But if you sold it to a government, like the federal government or a state government, that could provide you an opportunity to employ 7 to 10 more people in a neighborhood, which will be in turn give them the opportunity to have adequate health care. And if they can get adequate health care, then they can improve healthcare outcomes as well as financial literacy. And it just really could change the whole dynamics of, like Devin was saying. And it establishes a digital Black Wall Street approach by meaning that, that we don't have to be defined by a particular physical address or a particular neighborhood. Carmel comes from Southern Illinois, and we talked about in the past about how it was, in the community that she was raised. I talk about my family was raised, and I know a lot of us have that similar experience, but 2 generations from now, a lot of our children are not going to have those experiences, and that's fine. But we should be able to still create a micro economy where we can still be able to support each other whether it's a business or even supporting another household, you know, and putting our swords down and being able to communicate and set healthy boundaries. And that is the scope of the Mahogany Legacy Project. So that's going to be, whoops, that's basically it as far as the presentation and the seminar is concerned. And so we want to go ahead and open it up for others if they have any questions or comments or anything of that nature. And I got all these people on here, so somebody better open their mouth. I'm gonna start calling folks out.
Let's hear from James Jackson.
Yeah, James got the cool studio in the background.
Yeah.
James, tell us about your business real quick, man, before you ask a question or have a comment.
Okay, so I own a video production business, and can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So I own a video production business where I help brands get their marketing efforts out. So I'll do, what is it, testimonial video, so internal and external. So like external will be like your testimonial videos, your promotional videos, your brand messaging videos that kind of tell what your brand is about. And then internal, so like hiring on videos and training videos and things of that nature.
Cool.
Where are you located?
I just moved out here to like the Belleville area. I'm in Shiloh, Illinois.
Oh yes, please leave your information. We need that. We need that.
Okay, so you're in the area too, man.
Yes, I'm in Belleville. Yep.
Okay.
So I did tell them about the business over breakfast on March 14th at Club Exhilaration.
Yes.
Shameless plug.
Okay.
So hopefully you're able to make it out there.
When is that?
It's the, or is it the third? What's the third Monday? I hate going off the top of my head. So anyways, it's the third Monday in March, and we're at Club Exhilaration. And so it just gives us an opportunity to meet other Black business owners in the region and just kind of develop a network and, you know, promote your services and just get a chance to know each other a little bit more within the community.
Mm-hmm.
So what time is that?
It's Lord, don't put me on the spot like that. Is it 8 o'clock?
I have to pull up my calendar.
Hopefully it's 9 o'clock, because you know me at 8.
Yeah.
For those who know me, y'all know I don't like waking up early.
I'm a morning person, so
Eyes.
we will make sure we post that information in the chat. I'll post it in the chat.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got a comment or question, bro?
No, I've just been a fly on the wall trying to suck in all the information that you guys have been giving today. It's been nice being here.
Appreciate it.
Glad to have you here with us.
Yeah.
Dr. Adrienne Allen, I'm calling you out and stuff.
That's
I know
my
you can,
buddy, Dr.
yeah, I know
Allen.
she can't stay quiet. So Dr. Adrienne Allen, before she says something, she is my other partner in crime out of Shaw University. I'll be out that way in March again and stuff. But, you know, Dr. Allen is a big endorser of the Mahogany Legacy Project. And, you know, regional collaborations, that's what we're talking about. It's really trying to establish connections from one side of the country to the other and stuff. So definitely looking to come out to Carolina more often just to try to build something within the community. Dr. Allen, what to do?
I said so many great things that I really like. I do think that as an entrepreneur, one of the things we have to do is have a thick skin from the beginning. So you do need a mentor. I am working on some things with SCORE. And what we're trying to do is just make the information more digestible. A lot of times we are not making the income because we don't look at the smaller things, how we're pricing, our strategies. And those are things we kind of found some gaps with. So looking at those things. But one thing you always need to do, if nothing else, you have to learn how to be your own cheerleader. So just get this mantra up every day and start making realistic goals. We know what the end goal. I always say work with the end in mind and work towards it. But figure out some routine where you can get everything in. Your mental health. Working 8 hours is not productive. Learn how to take this break and come back to it. I always say, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done. You're not getting anything done. Probably the first few hours good. Take that break, then come back, refresh. But you're going to have to think about things from a different perspective and stop competing with yourself. You did this much today and you're going to try to push it over the edge another day. You're going to burn your own self out. One thing about our culture is that we give a lot of things away. We're innovators, we're creators, and when we stop and our focus goes away, intellectual knowledge is the key. We throw it away instead of patents. Own it, sell it if you don't want to do it anymore. Make the money another way. We have to start thinking about the future. So that's why we're not being as progressive as we can be. We just give all the information away. We compete with ourselves when people challenge us, so we talk too much. And we should put our things in writing and keep it legally. So some of the things we learn as we move forward, we're great at all things, but we're not great at keeping things. The global network, we're not going to bring Black Wall Street back, but it's not meant to be brought back. It was meant to be a foundation. We're in a global economy now. And I say this all the time. We can reach the whole entire world when we want to. So we can be as productive as we want to be, but we still need to make these connections and keep them. So
absolutely. And just again, just to add to that too, because like I said, I know some of the people on the calls are not business owners, and you know, you can still maximize your resources, right? You know, and you can you can maximize your relationships. You can you know, say you can establish a healthy boundaries. You can make sure you bounce things off your chest with a confidant or a loved one, and you can make your dollar work exponentially if you use the right tools and resources. You know, so you know, you could be in a situation where you're working, whether you're a nurse or whether you're a you know, a cook, or you know, whatever the case may be and stuff, and that, you know, they say the average millionaire, they made no more than $60,000 a year in their lifetime. So you don't have to make six figures necessarily to retire as a millionaire. But the thing is that you can take your dollars and maximize it and stuff. So you can say, hey, you know, I can stop working before I'm 60, or I can stop working at 55. You know, I remember when I used to work at the federal system that this one lady, she was African American. She quit her job for federal probation at 51, and she's never came back. You know what I mean? And I just admired it. You know, another person I worked with and stuff, he retired completely full time at 50. You know, so those things are doable, you know, and I just think that you know, whether it's your job or whether you're a business, education makes a big difference. And you know, if you don't want to go to school, that's fine, but at least be in connection with the people who can educate you and inform you to make better decisions, not only for yourself, but also for your family, for your children, and for your children's children.
And Queen Carmel, one of the books I like for everybody to do when I do workshops is the 5 love languages, communication, so relationships. Yep. We're talking the same thing, but we're bumping heads. We communicate and receive it different ways.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And those love languages apply to more than just our romantic relationships.
Right. It's deceiving, but it's a quick read, but it will work.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Allen. Jasa, you sent me a question, so now I'm gonna put you on the spot. Are you in a position to talk? Jasa is one of our students, or one of Dr. Allen's students, and she's actually been trying to help me get some energy going out in North Carolina as well with the Mahogany Legacy Project and stuff. An eager student, a bright mind and stuff, and I'm glad to have her on board. So how you doing, hon?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So you got any questions for the panel?
Yes.
Oh, hold on. Before you ask your questions, Dr. Allen, are you going to give her extra credit?
Not my student this term, but she will have to be my student again before she graduates. I might.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I graduate May 8th of this year, so
yeah.
She was my professor last semester, first and last time, unfortunately, but definitely a wonderful professor, very informative and relates back to real life, everyday situations very well. So I learned a lot in her class.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So you have a question for the panel, or you have any comments that you would like to ask?
Well, first, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to even join in and listen on. I definitely am learning a lot. Some things I've been hearing over some other Black business and Black business leadership conferences, and here is learning how to adapt well and adjust, and again, relationships. So it's very inspiring to hear and see Black business owners, but not only of one business, but of multiple businesses, and still handling their business on, in office, quote unquote, and handling their personal life. So just want to say thank you guys for being such good role models and muses. Keep up the good work. There are some of us that are looking up to you, and we may not be able to reach out as frequently or as often as we would like to, but thank you.
But no, I appreciate it. No, we appreciate you coming and stuff. And Jasa, I told Jasa that, you know, the beauty of the project and the intent of the project is not so much what we do in our 30s or 40s. It's more so about, you know, people in her age category. It's really important for the youth to take hold. And she asked me, says, Dr. Duncan, what can I do to help, you know, promote the Mahogany Legacy Project? And I said, well, you put your twist on it. You know, I said, because the thing is that when I wrote it, I didn't write it just for me. And I tell people that there are things in the book that you're not able, I can't do it by myself. You know, I can't, I don't own a bank. So I can't create dashboards for banks. I don't have the money to redo parks or provide a graffiti wall or some of the other recommendations. I can't address some of the childcare issues that are necessarily needed and stuff, but you can provide your twist. All I'm doing is trying to provide a consolidated roadmap. You know, one of the larger arguments was from people who would challenge, you know, some of the Black social commentary was like, well, what's your plan? And so the book was just my interpretation of what that plan would look like. And so, but it was only effective if people from my age group, from an age group before me, and age groups under me are able to receive the information and apply it in a way that benefits, you know, you, your friends, and whenever you have children, you know, it'll take care of your children and their children's children. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And you did make a good point too about, you know, relationships. You know, and I think that's a common theme, that you cannot be successful in life unless you have a successful relationship. And it's not, and again, this does not have to be a marital relationship. It doesn't have to be a cohabitating relationship. It doesn't have to be, I mean, it's relationship that you have with your coworkers. It could be your relationship you have with your friends. It could be your relationships that you have with whomever. But you got to be able to have healthy relationships. And if those people are not trying to build you up, if they're not helping to build you up, and if they're always, you know, throwing shade at you, if they're always having negative comments to say, or they're doing something to belittle you or demean you, those people don't need to be in your life, you know, at that particular capacity. Now, some people are toxic by nature, and depending on your family dynamics, you can't get rid of them. I know everybody has some, but by the end of the day, it comes down to the people that you are able to establish a healthy relationship. Those are the people who are going to be able to help you become a better person, Jason. And all I can do is just try to be a vessel for that. And, you know, you can always reach out to me anytime, because I want to see you succeed and excel like anybody else that's on this particular panel for today. So thank you.
And the most important relationship, first and foremost, is the one with yourself. Because when we learn how to have a healthy relationship with ourselves and engage in self-love, it's really a lot easier for us to have healthy relationships with other people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So welcome.
I definitely agree with that. I'm actually a vice president on a few different boards, and one of the initiatives I came up with was self-love, which was mind, body, and soul care. So it's
Love
been
it.
spreading across a few campuses, and it's been doing well. It's been 3 years running. So
Good.
I'm a psychology major, so I most definitely understand and agree with taking care of you and your mental first, because if that's not together, your fruits aren't going to be together either, meaning your businesses and how well you succeed. But
Absolutely.
if you guys don't mind sharing, what are some of your moments, or a few times where you were inspired to start your own business, the first one or any of them?
For me, I'm hard-headed. You know, I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, if there's a thought that crosses my mind, I'm not as impulsive as I used to be 5 or 10 years ago, but if there was something that I was curious, I would go out there and pursue it. And now it's the critical thinking that comes along with it, and fostering the belief that it can happen. Right. And so there are a couple of different things that I do, you know, business wise, and sometimes they come, you know, they come together at the same time, and it creates headaches. But the thing is, that's what I signed up for. But I like to bounce around a lot anyways. And so I think that's what kind of motivates me. I don't like to be bored. And so I think that's what really helps motivate me. But everything with the Mahogany Thoughts, the Mahogany Legacy Project and stuff like that, they're not as income producing as my other ventures. And this is a passion project. There's no other way to say it. And I know that it would be nice for me to affect tens of thousands of Black households across the country in various ways and spaces. But to me, I feel like that I said it several times, I have a moral obligation to try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I gave it a shot. Right. The other things and stuff that I do that does produce income in other ways and stuff, from whether teaching somewhere else, doing boot camps and continuing ed and real estate and stuff like that. I mean, those are natural. I mean, those are things are pretty much concrete, linear, point A to point B type activities. But this is something where I felt like that I had to do, because if it wasn't me, who was going to do it? Right. And so that was my personal motivation. So every time it's, today I'm really tired, and I've been on the phone, I've been recording all day and stuff like that, but these are passions. So I don't consider that work. So when I say I work 30 to 35 hours, I physically put in my 30, 35 hours, but everything else is passion. So when I'm meeting with people from developing content or whatever the case may be, people may not feel that, but to me, it's a passion. I can look at it and say, man, this is what I created, and hopefully somebody will take heed of it and to help better themselves. So it's different from everybody, but I'm not motivated necessarily by money with this particular deal. But I am motivated by opportunity, and it's the opportunity to connect and reach out to as many people as I have. Dr. Allen, Dr. Langford, Dr. Tamar, James, yourself. I mean, I've met y'all because of Mahogany Legacy Project, and that makes me richer as a person than it is in my bank account and stuff. So for that, I'm grateful for that. Carmel?
Well, for me, it was more so about passion as well. I was already doing it for free while I was working my full-time job. So I was working full-time for the state of Illinois at a forensic center, working with individuals who are inpatient, unfit to stand trial, not guilty by reason of insanity. And I was coming home and doing fitness related boot camps with a group of ladies. Like they would come to my house, we'd work out in my basement. I would meet them at different parks in the area, and we would go out and I'd run, because I was a runner. I loved running and such. And so I was getting people physically fit because I love fitness after coming home from my mental health job. And so my fitness center was the first business that I opened, even though I was a licensed therapist a lot longer than I had been a certified personal trainer. So I am the whole mind, body, and soul, Jasa, just to let you know. I did that, and I got that open for a couple of years, and I literally just did that for 2 years. So I left mental health for 2 years to get my fitness center going, and then I went back into to start my private practice after I got my fitness center going. So now I have this total wellness approach. We do fitness related fitness classes. First, we have trainers there as well. We do group fitness. We also have meditation classes. We did have yoga and such. My yoga instructors are on maternity leave, but but we do have a boot camp instructor. We have 3 personal trainers, and then we have various other classes. Our meditation instructor actually starts back in March. She had taken a hiatus with this pandemic and everything, so she starts back in March. And then of course, my therapy practice is separate from the wellness center, but I've kind of combined them over the past 2 years, because I'm like, hey, the community is just going to have to get used to the fact that mental health and physical health go together, and they need to just get over it. I'm combining this wellness center. I'm not going to be across town doing all this different stuff. They need to come under one roof and understand that what we put in our bodies, what we eat nutrition wise, is for our mental health and our physical health. And when we work out, it's just as much for our mental health as it is for our physical health. Working out is not just for losing weight. It's also for managing moods.
Oh yeah, because I work out as often as I can in the morning. And actually I did a quick little cardio before I started on this thing, just to release any kind of stress. So
Yep.
I'm always trying to be active in some way. My dieting could be a little bit better and stuff, but one thing for sure,
They go hand in hand.
So does my naps.
Yeah, absolutely. And why not offer that? If I'm qualified to do all of that, why not offer it all under one roof? I do have a separate therapy practice. I actually just switched from an individual practice. It was just me starting out. Now that I've hired more therapists, I'm now a group practice or a clinic. So Your Exhilarating Life, I went from Carmel Brown Counseling to Your Exhilarating Life Therapy Services just over the last couple of months. So I am keeping my Carmel Brown Counseling name, and it's Carmel Brown Counseling and Consulting, because I do workshops and speaking engagements and seminars and such under that name. But Your Exhilarating Life Therapy Services is my new therapy practice. I have 3 other therapists already in hiring, looking for more therapists. So that is separate, and that is a virtual, it's a teletherapy service. And after the pandemic's well behind us, we'll probably go ahead and occupy a space. But right now we are offering teletherapy services, and everyone is licensed, credentialed, and such. I have Dr. Pearl Campbell, who's an LCPC. I have Aubrey Ellinger, who is a LPC, and Janae Young, who is a master's. I'm providing her clinical supervision for her to receive her LCPC. So we are seeing people all throughout the state of Illinois, from Chicago on down to the southern part of the state virtually. And we're enjoying it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and excellent work, especially
Thank you.
on that body and mind connection.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're down to our last 10 minutes. I wanted to keep it to an hour 15 minutes. We had a late start, so we started at 6:15. It's now 7:34. And I guess before I conclude, did anybody else have a question or a comment they wanted to say before we closed out?
I just kind of wondered about like how you dealt with like time management with all your different ventures that you did have while
me?
keeping up with yourself. You or Dr. Duncan, either, or just someone with multiple ventures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
go
a
ahead,
good
Carmel.
question. I know for me, like I said, I took 2 years off from mental health just to get my fitness and wellness center going. And so once that was moving forward and I had staff there, that allowed me to step away and go ahead and get my therapy practice going 6 or 7 years ago. And at the same time, I have mostly been committed to not seeing clients every day of the week. I would rather have 3 really heavy days than to see clients every day of the week. And then when I know that I'm going to do like critical incidents, I have a lot of insurance companies. They may call and say, we had an employer that had an employee death. Can you go over and provide on-site counseling for the employees? I go out and do a lot of that type of work as well. So I leave spaces in my schedule to do those types of things. And that's another reason why, a lot of therapists say, oh, I can't afford to hire other therapists. Well, my thoughts about that is you can afford not to. Well, I cannot, because as that steady flow of clients are coming in, I need manpower, people to meet that demand so that I can be present in the community and do all those other things. And my fitness center, that is a form of therapy and self-care for me to get to go and work out and be silly and have fun and sweat and, look a mess and all that stuff, So that is a load off for me, to be honest with you. But I'm a nature person. I like hiking. I go out, I sign up for races. You may see me in a superhero run somewhere with a cape on. Because, I let my inner child out. So
Okay. I won't be there, but I'll see the pictures. To answer the question, I'll kind of rewind it. So in 2019, I had got laid off from this one company. I was a leadership. I was a corporate executive, and I got laid off. So I had to basically redefine myself. So the end of 2019, 2020, 2021, I literally went hard in the paint damn near almost every day. And so I think that going into my birthday in October, I had to reevaluate where I was going, because I realized that I was burning myself out, not just from a innovation standpoint, but from a mental and emotional standpoint. I was exhausted. There was a lot of days I was cranky. There was a lot of days I started feeling, when you're tired, the incidence of depression can kind of go up, right? And I started having harder times to sleep and stuff like that. And then I was too busy trying to appease everybody. And so I had to establish boundaries. There's no other way to say it. And so even though I do kind of express what's on my mind or share, hey, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of times and stuff where I am very compartmentalized and I have to establish my boundaries. And there is times and stuff where if I say, for those who are on this call, they know if I sit there and say I'm gonna do something, 99% of the time I'm gonna follow through, because I like to say, my word is bond. I try to limit that now, and just be realistic. If I can't do it, I'm gonna tell you no. And if you have a problem with it, you have a problem with it, because I know that they're not in my world or my space 24/7, and I'm not in their world 24/7. And I had to understand that. And so by establishing boundaries and just being very structured, I had to create a structure for myself, because I realized that for every time I got away from my structure, I wound up having a lot more issues, whether it was money management, whether it was just time management, whether it was just getting projects completed on time, being across the board, or whatever the case may be. Carmel could tell you some of the stuff that I talked about doing. She probably didn't want to say it, but it was a little scattered because I couldn't bring everything together. Now, everything that I'm starting to put together now and say that I'm doing, they're happening because I'm laser focused on doing those tasks, and once again, it's like I said, once I get to a certain point, that's it. I have my quiet time, where I'm off the phone. I like playing video games now. That's something I didn't do a lot. I've started watching TV shows a lot more, which I didn't do and stuff. And I used to talk about people who did it, but now I kind of enjoy watching TV. And so I like to have my downtime, and I just have to create those boundaries. And they're not meant to be rude or bogus towards others, but it's just to create those boundaries so I can get myself back at its peak level, because I might be able to shoot to you on the phone till 10, 11 o'clock at night, but I got to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and do a Zoom call on a board of directors call, or I have to host or lead something. I have to do an oral defense. There's a lot of times, James, where, and Dr. Allen, I know you can relate in being an instructor yourself. There's a lot of times that you're going to have to switch to 4 different hats in 4 different spaces within a span of 6 hours or 12 hours. And if you don't set those boundaries, and if you don't prioritize and get yourself more organized, like Carmel has said about her little book, you're going to find chaos and you're going to burn out faster. There's just no way to do it. I know every night before I go to bed, I look and see what's on my things to do list tomorrow, and I'll never have to look at it again, because every single thing, even something as simple as go to the post office, is right there. You know what I mean? Because then when I realized that took away a lot of what I had to think about to do the next day. And if I had appointments or if I have obligations, I will confirm with the individual 24 hours in advance instead of waiting on the day of. Because if that individual doesn't respond or doesn't commit, then I can move that slot out, and I don't even have to slot it with anybody else or anything else. I can just say, okay, that's my time, because originally I blocked out 2 hours to do this particular activity. And for you, and I know that you're, moving into the area and you're getting your things going with your business and whatnot, you got to make sure that you compartmentalize. You got to establish your boundaries. And we say it over and over again: self-care, self-care, self-care. Your friends, your family, your cousins, your loved ones, whoever, they'll support you. They're always going to support you. They may not like some of the choices that you're going to make, and they may not like the way that you go about doing it, but they also understand too that you're moving in a direction that's different than most other people are, and they have to respect that. If they don't respect that, then they really, really supported who you were as a person. That's my opinion.
James, I started maybe, Lisa, what was it? Maybe about 6 months ago. I just said on Saturdays, I don't do any work. I work for Adrian. So, because I do consulting, and I started that because I left a job and they didn't replace me. So I did consulting for the company that did the equipment and all the programs for the company. So I did that. So my other boss said, you just got to stop doing that altogether. And so on Saturdays now, I don't do anything. So I have a full-time job at Shaw, but I have all these other jobs with other schools, with all the different time zones in the States, then in other countries. We all work in other countries too. So, and I still do some consulting. And now we got a contract coming up. It's just all Black women, and doing some construction and all this great stuff. And I'm back. I like the healthcare, so I'm back into that too. So it doesn't, we just keep our relationships open. There's no, we can do anything. All of us really can, because it kind of crosses over all the time. But I took one day of the week. I don't do anything. Whatever I feel like when I want to. And then on Sunday, I go to church. After that, you can call me.
That's right.
Absolutely. I know, because I talked to her late Sunday a couple of days ago. That's because I knew she was at church. I was like, I'm gonna call her at 3. But yeah, no, I mean, but she hit it right on the nail though. I mean, you have to you have to set those time off. My heaviest work days are Monday through Wednesday. Thursday, it's kind of carry over what's left over from Wednesday, but by midday Thursday through Friday, that's my time. And if I feel like doing something or going somewhere or doing, that's my choice and stuff. But I just hope that for people who know me well enough, understand that it's not personal, but I have to maintain a level of energy 365 days, because even though I do go on vacations and stuff like that, there's a lot of times, and Carmel, I know that you can relate, and Dr. Allen, I know you can relate, just because we're out of town doesn't necessarily mean that we're on vacation.
Yeah, that's
So
very true. But
yeah.
but schedule them anyway.
We schedule them anyways, but on paper,
at least every 3 or 4 months, I schedule myself off for at least 4-day vacation. Sometimes I try to a week every 3 or 4 months. Just in the last 6 months, I've been to LA, New York, San Diego, Newport Beach, just in the last 6 months. But, it's because we work so much and we work so hard that we have to unplug. And, I know last month I was in New York, but I was on the phone taking care of business stuff for 2 hours at one point. And my family's like, when you done? Are you done? They left and came back. I'm still on the call,
Right.
I might be working, but wherever I go, I'm gonna find some good food. I'm gonna do that.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Oh yeah. I always say have laptop and iPad. We'll travel. Anytime I go in that town, I'm always have my laptop and iPad, because something does happen, And the other thing too, though, I think all of us can relate, or the three of us can relate here, is that our definition of vacation has changed compared to the traditional 9-to-5 vacation. So when you're taking off work and taking leave and you're going to a place like, like say that you're going to Chicago, or you're going to, like LA or Vegas or Orlando or Miami or something like that for those 4 days, and you're with your homies or your homegirls, whatever, that vacation means something because you're actually physically taking a time off and you can push that away. But as a business owner, and for somebody that, or someone that stays relatively connected in that community, there is no, they don't know, you know what I mean? Where you can't send a text message to everybody, say, hey, I'm going on vacation, don't text me, don't call me, or don't email me and stuff. I don't even, for my students, I don't even say when I'm out of town or whatever and stuff, because they're going to call me anyways. So it just comes part and parcel of the life, but it does pay off, though. It definitely does pay off, because I know for some who may be listening saying, well, why would you want to get into it? It's because you have to be wired a different type of way to do what we're doing. And the thing is, like I tell folk, it's not for everybody, because if everybody was an entrepreneur, there will be no workers. But you have to be wired a certain type of way. And there's some people who are perfectly fine doing their 7 to 4, 7 to 5, 7 to 7, or whatever the case may be. And we should not, what we should not do is to berate or belittle them for their choices, or if they're comfortable or complacent. So that's why you hear me talk about businesses. I always switch up and say, hey, let's also keep in mind the households, because even though we're business people, everybody's not thinking to that extent or level. We want people to still feel that regardless of where they are in their walk in life, that they still have a community that they can relate to, or ask people, or even make referrals to. Carmel had talked about expanding her business, and she has different therapists. There might be somebody here that might be looking for therapy services, and it may not be able to see Carmel directly, but they could see one of her therapists and stuff to help, address some issues that could be urgent and pressing right away, and that's what building, again, back to Black Wall Street, that's what that's about, is to kind of create a digital connectivity to each other and stuff. So when, you sit there and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, I need to know, do you know this and that? Do you have this particular contact? I talked to Dr. Allen about this real estate deal for the longest, for months before it actually happened. And, and I'm glad I was able to have her to be available to talk about this particular unique issue, because she was able to relate to that from her experience. Had I not been able to have that community connection, there's no telling what would have happened with that, and so, just make sure that you treat yourself, but also make sure that you still remain connected to the community, and don't feel like that you're going at it alone. So if you ever get frustrated or whatever the case may be, know that you can reach out to us in some shape, form, and capacity, or follow others like us, because a lot of what you're going through emotionally and mentally are pretty much one and the same. Cool. Does anybody else have anything else to say, or questions or comments?
We didn't hear from Doc Lang. We didn't hear from April B, Dr. Tamar, or Venus. If any of you want to say something.
Hey, this is Dr. Langford. I have enjoyed everything tonight. I love what you ladies said about self-care. I loved everything you said too, Terrence. But the ladies really got me because I got to get moving and I'm gonna go exercise tonight when I get off the phone. I'm going to get on that Peloton.
Love
All
it,
right.
love it, love it.
All right, Doc, I'll holler at you later.
Okay.
All right. This is
Hello, all. This is Dr. Romeus. I, just like Dr. Langford, I have enjoyed the content. Look forward to the next one. And like you all, I do have the insight to branch out and do my own entrepreneurial thing, but still got it, still got several sticky notes in my head. I don't have anything concretely written on paper yet, but I've got some ideas that are in the fire right now. So just trying to get some other things in order, but I will be eventually headed down that entrepreneurial road.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, let us know, Dr. Allen, Dr. Duncan, or myself, if you need any help, assistance, or you need to consult in any way, we're here. And
Oh,
Devin
yes.
too, she's logged off, but Devin as well.
Yeah, I saw her on too. Yeah, and it's a good thing. You can have the resources right here in your own backyard amongst people that look like us.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
sure.
And
Yep.
for those who do reside in the St. Clair Metro East or Madison County Metro East area, we do plan to have more gatherings, networking events, and just freebies, so to say, just to be able to just start bringing people together and start celebrating and stuff. We do it in church, but we can extend ourselves more beyond church to start bringing each other together and stuff, so we can, Black Wall Street, go back to Black Wall Street, they knew everybody in the community, in their neighborhoods. And a lot of times, I'm pretty sure y'all get this too, now you go to the store and stuff, half the time we can't even say good morning to each other, so we have to kind of get back to that and and be able to be supportive for each other though. All righty. Well, I appreciate everybody for logging in at various points of this particular podcast. It was a very special one for our Black History Month seminar. It's the first one of the books. Thank you, Clint Carmel, for your support as always. Devon Moody-Graham, appreciate you. Dr. Allen, for jumping in and supporting as always, because you're always a part of the team as well. And that will conclude our seminar for this evening. And I wish everybody a safe and blessed night.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night. Good
Yeah.
night. Good night.